Fight for the things that you care about, but do it in a way that will lead others to join you. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. My mother told me to be a lady, and for her, that meant be your own person. Be independent. You can have it all at once. Who, man or woman, has it all at once? Over my lifespan, I think I have had it all, but in different periods of time. Things were rough, and if you have a caring life partner, you help the other person when that person needs it. Throwing out pre-clearance when it has worked and is continuing to work to stop discriminatory changes is like throwing away your umbrella in a rainstorm because you are not getting wet. Reacting in anger or annoyance will not advance one's ability to persuade. You can disagree without being disagreeable. The emphasis must be not on the right to abortion but on the right to privacy and reproductive control. I think unconscious bias is one of the hardest things to get at. The state controlling a woman would mean denying her full autonomy and full equality. I'm a very strong believer in listening and learning from others. We have the oldest written constitution still in force in the world, and it starts out with 3 words: we, the people. All respect for the office of the presidency aside, I assume that the obvious and unadulterated decline of freedom and constitutional sovereignty, not to mention the efforts to curb the power of judicial review, spoke for itself. Women will only have true equality when men share with them the responsibility of bringing up the next generation. If I had any talent that God could give me, I would be a great diva. It is not women's liberation, it is women's and men's liberation. The Sixth Amendment secures to persons charged with crime the right to be tried by an impartial jury reflecting a fair cross-section of the community. A gender line helps to keep women not on a pedestal, but in a cage. If you're going to change things, you have to be with the people who hold the levers. My mother told me 2 things constantly. One was to be a lady and the other was to be independent. And the law was something most unusual for those times because, for most girls growing up in the 40s, the most important degree was not your BA but your MRS. Frankly, I had thought that at the time Roe was decided, there was concern about population growth and particularly growth in populations that we don't want to have too many of. Not a law firm in the entire city of New York bid for my employment as a lawyer when I earned my degree at my advanced age. I'm now an octogenarian. I'm constantly amazed by the number of people who want to take my picture. So that's the dissenters' hope that they are writing not for today but for tomorrow. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. America is known as a country that welcomes people to its shores, all kinds of people. The image of the Statue of Liberty with Emma Lazarus' famous poem, "She lifts her lamp and welcomes people to the Golden Shore, where they will not experience prejudice because of the color of their skin, the religious faith that they follow. Collegiality is crucial to the success of our mission. We could not do the job the Constitution assigns to us if we didn't, to use one of Justice Antonin Scalia's favorite expressions, get over it." Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I really concentrate on what's on my plate at the moment, and do the very best I can. At Cornell University, my professor of European literature, Vladimir Nabokov, changed the way I read and the way I write. Words could paint pictures. I learned from him. Choosing the right word and the right word order, he illustrated, could make an enormous difference in conveying an image or an idea. Contraceptive protection is something every woman must have access to control her own destiny. I was tremendously fortunate to be alive and a lawyer, working at a university, so I had more flexible hours when the women's movement was coming alive and when it became possible to argue successfully for a view of the Equal Protection Clause that included women. I will do this job as long as I feel that I can do it full steam. People who think you could wave a magic wand and the legacy of the past will be over are blind. It's a facet of the gay rights movement that people don't think about enough. Why suddenly marriage equality? Because it wasn't until 1981 that the court struck down Louisiana's head and master rule that the husband was head and master of the house. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Marty was an extraordinary person. Of all the boys I had dated, he was the only one who really cared that I had a brain, and he was always, well, making me feel that I was better than I thought I was. When a thoughtless or unkind word is spoken, best tune out. Each part of my life provided respite from the other, and gave me a sense of proportion that classmates trained only on law studies lacked. We've come a long way from the days where there was state-enforced segregation, but we still have a way to go. I would not look to the U.S. Constitution if I were drafting a Constitution in 2012. If you just needed the skills to pass the bar, 2 years would be enough. But if you think of law as a learned profession, then a third year is an opportunity for, on the one hand, public service and practice experience, but on the other, also to take courses that round out the law that you didn't have time to do. Most states in the Union, where the death penalty is theoretically on the books, don't have executions. I do hope that some of my dissents will one day be the law. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You can't have it all at once. Over my lifespan, I think I have had it all. But in given periods in time, things were rough. And if you have a caring life partner, you help the other person when that person needs it. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Remember that before Roe v. Wade was decided, there were 4 states that allowed abortion in the first trimester, if that's what the woman sought: New York, Hawaii, California, Alaska. Other states were shifting, and people were fighting over this issue in state legislatures. I am fearful or suspicious of generalizations. They cannot guide me reliably in making decisions about particular individuals. It is not like I have gone crazy. I just don't want to take any chances. You never know what could happen. When I graduated from law school in 1959, there wasn't a single woman on any federal bench. It wouldn't be a realistic ambition for a woman to want to become a federal judge. It wasn't realistic until Jimmy Carter became our president. Justice Scalia and I served together on the D.C. Circuit, so his votes are not surprising to me. What I like about him is that he's very funny and very smart. I think the notion that we have all the democracy that money can buy strays so far from what our democracy is supposed to be. I've had 2 cancer bouts in my years on the court, and the first one, Justice O'Connor told me, "Now, you do the chemotherapy on Friday because you'll get over it during the weekend, and you can be back in court. On Monday. If you want to influence people, you want them to accept your suggestions. You don't say you don't know how to use the English language, or how could you make that argument? It will be welcomed much more if you have a gentle touch than if you are aggressive. The notion that it is improper to look beyond the borders of the United States in grappling with hard questions has a certain kinship to the view that the U.S. Constitution is a document essentially frozen in time as of the date of its ratification. At Columbia Law School, my professor of constitutional law and federal courts, Gerald Gunther, was determined to place me in a federal court clerkship, despite what was then viewed as a grave impediment on graduation. I was the mother of a 4-year-old child. When police or prosecutors conceal significant, exculpatory or impeaching material, we hold it is ordinarily incumbent on the state to set the record straight. I was part of jazzercise class. It was an aerobics routine, accompanied by loud music, sounding quite awful to me. Jazzercise was popular in the 80s and 90s. In the 50s, too many women, even though they were very smart, they tried to make the man feel that he was brainier. It was a sad thing. I'd do a variety of weight lifting, elliptical glider, stretching exercises, push-ups. Ruth Bader Ginsburg